Hi guys, my name is FPL Yusuf and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about all things Game Week 25 related, who you should bring in, who you should maybe look to get out. We'll talk about some big talking points around Trent, Haaland. Is triple captaincy a viable option this week? So we've got a lot to discuss. So let's get right into this video. Okay, welcome back guys. So this video is basically going to be everything surrounding Game Week 25. It's going to be about the doubles, about which players we should look to target, maybe some players that you think we should target, but maybe end up being traps due to minutes, due to playing time. So we're gonna have a sort of an in-depth dive into kind of like everything. So as you can see on screen, just quickly, we'll just start off with what happened at the end of last week. So I did actually wildcard, and my team did all right. I finished on 69 points. We got a small, like the smallest of small green arrows. I think I'm like 3.4 million now. So I've gone up about 100,000 spaces, which, you know what, look, a green arrow at the end of the day is a green arrow. So I will take it. Had a few good players in there, which actually returned well. You know, wildcarding Gabriel was a good pick up in the end. But Arsenal obviously coming out 6-0 over West Ham. Had David Raya as well, which doubled up on the Arsenal clean sheet. We had returns from Tony, Darwin, Jota. So a few of the players that we looked at ahead of Game Week 24 did come back and return, which is always nice to see. And they are players that we are going to be talking about for this game week as well. So yeah, it's, all in all, it was a decent wild card. Had a few points on the bench with Ben, me, and Douglas Luiz, but you know, them things are going to happen. So without further ado, let's just get onto it and let's talk about the biggest talking point. And it is that man, as you can see on screen, it is Mr. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, he is someone that I actually wildcarded out of my team last week. I did have Trent in. I got rid of him for Van Dijk. Now, my reason behind it wasn't because of this injury. If truth be told, I actually thought he would play the 90 minutes through Burnley. So it was a surprise to me when I saw that he came off at half time. The reason why I took Trent out for Van Dijk was solely because I didn't believe that Trent would play 90 minutes in both of the games in 25. I think because Liverpool have got this Carabao Cup final looming over them, I don't see Klopp playing certain players in both the games. So that was more about my reason as to why I got rid of Trent. Whereas Van Dijk is someone who, as I said in my video last week, I feel is just more guaranteed for minutes. I expect him to play the 90 minutes in both the games. But unfortunately for Trent, it's looking like he might not even play a part in double game week 25 at all. So the real question is what should you do if you have him? At the time of recording, it is currently Tuesday. And obviously we haven't heard nothing from Klopp. The press conferences won't be later till later in the week. So my first bit of advice would be just to listen out for any news around him. It doesn't look good though. I must be honest. Even if Trent is somehow fit to clear to play, I don't expect him to play more than an hour in either game, and I don't expect him to start in either game either. Or maybe it's a case of him starting one and just not playing the other. I think Klopp was saying that Conor Bradley is probably going to be back. I think Joe Gomez will be available as well. Obviously, he was out with the flu, so that is two more players who can cover the right back slot as well. If it was me personally, I would just look to get rid of Trent. I would look to either get rid of him for another Liverpool player if you don't mind taking a hit, or if you've got bench options for next week. Obviously, Liverpool blank in 26. If not, then maybe I would look a little bit further ahead down the line and just replace Trent for someone who's got a game in 26, a game in 29. You know, that could be an Aston Villa defender. There's a high chance of it being a Luton player. You know, so there are a few teams there. You know, West Ham, I think are one team that are going to play in both. So, you know, it is a difficult one because obviously Trent ceiling is so high, but I think just based on his fitness at the moment, I don't think we can guarantee that he is going to play 90 minutes. And I don't even know if we can guarantee that he's going to play in any of the games. So, yeah, for me personally, I think Virgil van Dijk would be number one. You could take an outside gamble on someone like Robertson, but again, I think he kind of falls into the same category as Trent, where I just don't see him playing both the games. You know, Simic has come off the bench in Liverpool's game against Burnley, so he's back as well. He's probably not match fit, but he is back. So I do expect both of them to sort of rotate and play minutes. So yeah, to summarize it all, I think if you have Trent, me personally, I would just advise to get rid. I would look at Van Dijk as being the number one replacement, and then if not Van Dijk, then I think you go to another player who maybe has a game week fixture in 26 and 29. I'm going to come on to the City defenders and why I don't think it's maybe the best idea to swap Trent for one of them. We'll come on to that in a minute. But yeah, so Trent, I think if you've got him, I think it's time to let him go. Okay, the Man City defenders. Now, I'm a little bit salty about this one because I did have Ake on my team last week and I took him out solely to get Kevin De Bruyne in. And obviously, De Bruyne, I wasn't 100% sure whether he played or not, so I ended up just wildcarding Son in. So I lost out on Nathan Ake 11 points, and I've held that man through City's last couple of games where they've conceded the one goal here, and it's just been a little 2 point return. But the City defenders, let's talk about them. If you are free hitting or you're wildcarding this week, maybe you could look to bring one of them in, right? I think this is the first time this season that we've seen all the City defenders are fit. So you've got Gavadio, you've got Ake, you've got Diaz, Stones, Akanji, Walker, Rico Lewis. That's 7 players that you can see on the screen there that I've just counted. That's a lot of options for Pep Guardiola. Um, I don't see personally any of them playing in both the games. I think they've obviously got a Champions League game. I think it's either tonight or tomorrow, so that might give us more information. We'll hear from Pep, and that might give us more of an insight of who's going to start this first game on the weekend, judging by who's playing in the game. But it's so hard to call. It really is a 50-50. I think if you are going out, as I said, like if you're going to wild card, you're going to free hit. I personally would just go for the 3 City attackers in Haaland, Foden, De Bruyne, and just put all your eggs in the attack. I think the defense, I think it's hard for the City defense. One, because you're not guaranteed minutes with them, but two, the fixtures that they're playing, they've got Chelsea at home and they've got Brentford at home. As bad as both of those two teams are defensively, which is why I expect City to score, I can also see both of them scoring against City as well. You know, Ivan Toney has actually got a decent record against Man City, and if we saw the reverse fixture against Chelsea back in, I think it was November, they finished 4-4. So yeah, I think the City defenders, I just don't think there's enough upside with them. Plus, also, what ends up happening was even if they keep a clean sheet, it's kind of just a 6-pointer because there's very few defenders from City that actually end up on bonus points just because the amount of goals that their attack scores. So yeah, if you are somebody who is like playing a chip this week, I think the best case scenario is just to stack it all in on City's attack. If you're not playing a chip and you've got a free transfer, maybe you've got 2 free transfers, maybe you rolled last week, and you're looking for a third City asset, I probably, if you really want to go for a defender, I would probably put it on Edison because you know he's going to play both the games. Whereas the other 7 of them, they're so up in the air about who's going to play and who's going to start from them. So me personally, I think the City defense for me is just an avoid because it's just too much of a headache. Obviously, they play in 26, which they have a good fixture against Bournemouth, but then after that, you know, they've got Liverpool. They're probably going to blank in 29. So I think later down the line, that was going to cause you a problem anyway. So like for me personally, I will be going to this game week with just 2 City players. It'll be Haaland and Foden. I'm not going to try and break the bank to mess around trying to get De Bruyne back in. As I said, if you've got an easy route to De Bruyne, by all means, go for it. I think just for me personally, it would require moving Son up to De Bruyne, and I just don't see the upside of it because Son, I can bench him next week, and then he's got a game in 29. So yeah, I think with the City defenders, I personally would advise just staying away from them. I think the rotation is just too much of a headache trying to predict who's going to start because let's be honest, none of us can. And yeah, I would just invest all your money if you're on a free hit or you're on a wild card, just put it into the attack and just go all out for them. Right, so let's talk about some other players who are also playing a double game week this week. So let's look first at Brentford. I think the standout option is way clear. It's Ivan Toney. I think Ivan Toney is a very interesting player. He's someone who I love as an FPL asset because he's as close to fixture proof as you could probably say for most players. He can turn up in a game and just get a goal regardless of who he's playing. It could be through a penalty. We saw a couple of weeks ago he scored a free kick. He's an excellent finisher as well. And usually what happens with Toney is when he scores, he's usually near the 3 bonus points. This week he actually got a goal but didn't get any bonus points, ironically. But he's always a part of everything that Brentford do. And I think, as I said, if you're on a free hit or a wild card, I would strongly suggest getting Toney in. I mean, I've got him for my team. I'm using this kind of a differential. I think for a lot of people, it would be a case of to get to Toney, you'd probably have to sell Watkins. Now, I understand why a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. I think maybe this week was a little bit fortunate that I kind of won that battle. Watkins, you know, had a few chances that, you know, on another day he's putting away and coming away with a haul. So I think it's something to be mindful of. If you are trying to play catch up, I think now is probably the time to start making these sort of choices. Hence why I've gone for Ivan Toney. I just think he's nailed for minutes, 180 minutes, regardless of who they're playing. He will play both the double. And I think he's just Brentford's only real choice. I also have Ben Mee on my bench. I think Reguilon is also another shout. He's on all set pieces. If you're going to go for a Brentford defender, though, you have to bear in mind that they are playing Liverpool and Manchester City. So I don't think you're relying on a clean sheet from either of them. It's not out of the question. It's not impossible. but I think it's highly unlikely. Which is why I think Reguilon, Ben Mee, Ethan Pinnock, they all provide their own attacking threat. Reguilon from down the wing, crosses and set pieces. Mee and Pinnock are more so from the set piece aspects, but I do worry for them, and I do worry about how many goals they are going to concede. So I think that is something to bear in mind, because you could feasibly end up on minus points if Liverpool and City turn up and play their best football. That could be a sort of a 3-4 goal each, which is going to result in minus points. So just bear that in mind before you jump on that train with those Brentford players. Also, as you can see on screen, I've got the Luton boys in there. Now, I own two of them. Never in my wildest dreams, I think at some point in this season, I would have two Luton players, let alone two Luton defenders. So one of them is Alfie Doherty, who I think was actually very unfortunate not to return against Sheffield United. He created 9 key chances. If just one of them goes in, he's probably going to end up on bonus points just from the sheer amount of opportunities he was creating for his team. So he's someone I'm not so much worried about. I think with him, you have to sort of put in mind that you've got him there. If Luton keep a clean sheet, that's amazing. But I think with him, it's the prospect and the opportunity of getting an attacking return. Now, he is playing Liverpool in one of the games, which isn't exactly great. But Manchester United is another interesting one. I feel like there's probably opportunity there for them. Like, they didn't play that well against Aston Villa despite winning the game. They gave up a lot of chances. Luton, I don't know whether you're expecting a clean sheet. We're going to come on to Kaminsky in a minute, but with Alfie Doughty, I think there's definitely room for him to create chances. Whether or not you have Carlton Morris or Adebayo up front who are going to put them away, that's a different story. But I think the opportunity there with Alfie Doughty is one of a high quality if he provides that final killer pass. I think you just have to bear in mind that the clean sheets probably won't come with. Now, Kaminsky is another one. I am going to start him this week. I can't believe I'm doing it. I have David Raya on the bench against Burnley, and I expect Arsenal fully to keep a clean sheet. But I'm going to put him in there on the sole basis that it's for the save points. I don't expect him to keep a clean sheet against Manchester United. I don't expect him to keep a clean sheet against Liverpool. He's solely in there just for the save points. We saw what happened a couple of weeks ago with Flecken for Brentford when he played Manchester City. He ended up on 10 points. Now, I know he got an assist out of that game, which did help. And obviously, Kaminsky is probably not going to do that. But surely the amount of saves he made, I think he had like 10, 11 saves. So that is big points. It's like sort of 3 going on for four save points, plus the two playing points. It's nearly racks up to a clean sheet anyway. So I think if you're looking at the Luton Town defenders in particular, Alfie Doughty, Kaminsky, you have to bear in mind that you're probably not going to get a clean sheet from them. But it's the other things that they bring, Kaminsky with his saves, Doughty with his attacking play, that is what is going to get you points. There is a conversation to be had about, an Adebayo or a Carlton Morris up front. If you're looking for a third cheap striker, I just think that for a lot of people, that third striker spot is either taken up by a Darwin, by a Tony, by a Solanke, by a Watkett. Like, I find it very hard. I think most people are sort of running 3-4-3 at the moment. So they are an outside chance. Could be a little differential. Carlton Morris is on penalties. Both of them seem to be starting as well, which is good if you own them. They are very cheap options, which frees up money elsewhere. I just don't know if I would choose them over a Darwin this week who's on a double, or even a Tony on this week who's on a double as well. Right, so let's talk triple captain. Now, I think a lot of people will probably be using their triple captain this week. I don't see many better fixtures for both two of big teams who are in the Premier League who are going to have doubles. And I think the only place to start with is the obvious one, and that is Manchester City, who have Chelsea at home, followed by Brentford at home. And everyone naturally is going to look towards the big man up front, Erling Haaland. Now, we saw what he can do at any given minute. He was quiet for majority of the Everton game, and then he ends up leaving there with 13 points, 2 goals, 3 bonus, just like that. So he has got that capacity just to turn it on whenever he needs to. And his ceiling is so high. I do expect him to play both the games for this double game week. I think he's going to be the most captain player that we've seen this season. I think a lot of people will probably deploy their chips. I think most people will probably want to put it on Manchester City, who have got 2 home fixtures against 2 teams which defensively haven't been great. Yes, they can score goals, but defensively have not been good, or at least not been up to the standard that they've set in previous seasons. And they're coming up against Erling Haaland. I think that is the obvious choice. I'm about 75, 80% sure I'm going to put it on him. And the reason why I'm not 100% sure is I'm going to come on to that in a minute, but there is a case to be made for some other players, but also if you're trying to climb up your mini leagues and trying to climb up your ranks, you're going to have to do something different at some point. So we are going to get onto that. Is there anyone else from Man City who you could feasibly put it on? Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden would be the obvious two next shouts. I don't think you're going to triple captain Phil Foden. It's not to say he can't haul, because we've seen, over the last few weeks, he most definitely can. I just think Haaland, with his route to points on penalties, he's just central to that Man City team. Now, De Bruyne is an interesting one. If De Bruyne played 90 minutes in both those games, I think you could make a case and make an argument that there is an opportunity to captain him, or to triple captain him. He has a very good record of scoring against Chelsea as well, which is something to think about. Usually, whether he's home or away, he always scores against them. So that's something that I've sort of bear in mind. Obviously, I can't get to De Bruyne now, so for me, it's gone. But it's just some advice for you guys, or something to think about, is that De Bruyne actually does usually have a good record against Chelsea. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see him on the score sheet in that game. But as I said, I think from Man City, I think most people will probably go to Erling Haaland. And I think whether you want to use your triple captaincy or not this week, I think you may just have to, just to protect ranked. Because if Haaland returns in those games and he does what we think he can do, I believe he got a brace against Chelsea. I think he scored a brace against Chelsea at the start of the season in that 4-4 game. Fun fact about Haaland, though, and this is where the doubt comes in a little bit. Other than that one game where they played Chelsea at the start of the season 4-4, I think in Haaland's last 6 fixtures between Brentford and Chelsea, he's blanked in 5 of them. I think it was last season Brentford got a famous 2-1 win over City at the Etihad. I think Ivan Toney scored a brace. So it's not to say that it's a guarantee, because I don't think any player is a guarantee. I think if you are going to go for Haaland as triple captain, you're just putting your eggs in kind of the obvious basket and the one that looks the most enticing, but it doesn't always play out like that. So the other player that I'm going to come on to, and it's a split thing for my triple captaincy, it is one of Darwin or Jota. Now, this is where the other 20% is. It's a bit rogue. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It is a massive differential. It's one of those things that, the way I'm looking at it for me, and this is just for me personally, my rank is currently about 3.4 million. I need something. I need a catalyst. I need something that's going to propel me up the ranks, because the longer the game weeks go by, the harder it's going to be. Now, it is a big risk. Like I said, it's a big risk going against Haaland on a triple captaincy chip as well. Darwin's got the numbers. He's got the XG. He's got the XCI. He's got everything. He's got everything going in his favour, other than his finishing. He will get chances. We know he will. They're playing against Luton and Brentford, two defences which aren't great. So he will most definitely get chances. I'm hesitant about putting it on Darwin just because of his finishing ability. Now, Jota's kind of the opposite. Jota, finishing wise, amazing. I just don't think he gets himself into as good of positions as Darwin does. The other thing with Jota is that what happens if Salah's back? Now, I don't think Salah's going to start either of the games, just to put it out there and make it clear. However, that's not to say that he won't get minutes off the bench. And if he does get minutes off the bench, I personally would think it's more than likely that Jota's going to be the man to make way for him. So I think it's something to think about, which is why that choice of having the triple captaincy, I will wait right till the deadline to get as much information about who's going to play, how Salah is fitness-wise. Is he going to be back on the bench? Is there a chance he plays any minutes in the game? So I want to hear Klopp's press conference. I want to hear what Pep has to say about his team as well. Obviously, we'll see from Man City in the week when they play Copenhagen in the Champions League, how they set up. But yeah, I think it's a good opportunity this week to try and make rank gain. Yeah, I guess you have to be brave in some decisions, and it's not always going to work out, granted. But if it does work out, you're laughing. So yeah, I think triple captaincy for me is just between the 3 on screen. Haaland is leading that way drastically, but I think there's an outside shout for Jota or Darwin as well. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have found this video interesting and hopefully informative, and it's maybe giving you some insight on players that you should be looking at versus players that maybe are a little bit of a trap, and maybe some that we should steer clear from. I will be back on Friday. I'm going to try and get a final team selection video out. My team this week, my aim is to roll the transfer. I don't really need to do anything. That was part of the reason why I wildcarded last week, was just to set the team up for this week, so I could go into it, roll the transfer, and take 2 into 26 to try and get some players who are blanking out of my team. So it should be pretty much very similar to what I kind of played 24 in, but I will get a final team selection video up, just showcasing that to you guys, and maybe just going through some final thoughts around the Liverpool assets, the Man City assets. Hopefully, by the time I upload that video as well, we would have heard more surrounding Trent. Maybe we would have seen the team from Man City that they play in the Champions League, and then maybe just a few other hopefully injury issues that, I know a lot of people will have Charlie Taylor and players like that who I sort of doubt, and it's a big thing, because them not playing this week will be a big effect on who and how many players you deploy in 26. So yeah, Friday I'm going to upload a final team selection video, and hopefully we'll just try and sort of gloss over and cover any final points before the big double. So like I said, thank you guys so much for watching once again. If you've enjoyed this video, please drop it a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I will catch you guys next time.